You guys today, there is trouble in paradise. The United Front beginning to implode. These players are fish swimming with the sharks. They thought they were going to push the owners. They thought the owners were going to give in, acquiesce to their demands, get a deal done. But now they find themselves, as the clock is ticking and time is running out, they find themselves in deep water. And the executive committee is starting to look around and say, maybe we should take the deal.
That's not hyperbole. That's not exaggeration for clicks. The WNBA Players Association Executive Committee is genuinely fracturing from the inside, and the owners know it. When your negotiating team can't even show up to the most critical meeting of the year, you've already lost leverage. And what happened on Monday, January 13th, in New York City, exposed a split that could determine whether the 2025 season happens at all.
Strike, you have Nafisa Collier staking her claim. Pay us what you owe us. If I had to take a guess, Nafisa Collier staking her claim. Pay us what you owe us. Brianna Turner staking her claim. Pay us what you owe us. And then you might have the other side of the delegation. Then you might have Brianna Stewart side. Then you might have the Alicia Clark side. Maybe a little Kelsey Plum in there. Maybe a little bit of Elizabeth Williams in there saying, you know what, guys? We did make significant strides over here. You got Nafisa Collier and Ogwumike over there. You got Stewie, Elizabeth Williams, Alicia Clark over here. One of those sides got to give.
So let's be clear about what the executive committee actually is. 7 players, 7 voices, that the entire WNBA Players Association authorized back in December to call a strike when necessary. That's Danica Ogwumike, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, Kelsey Plum, Arike Ogunbowale, Brianna Turner, and Alicia Clark. These 7 women hold the power to shut down the league, but according to ESPN sources, that united front is crumbling. One faction, likely led by Ogwumike and Turner, believes this is the moment to fundamentally restructure revenue sharing. No compromise, no backing down. Push until the owners break. The other faction, probably Stewart, Clark, and Plum, sees it differently. They've already secured massive gains. The league's latest offer would take max salaries from $241,000 to $1 million guaranteed in 2026, potentially reaching $1.3 million through revenue share and growing to nearly $2 million over the life of the agreement. That's a 400% increase. Maybe they're thinking it's time to take the win.
Sources, WNBA Players Union meeting Monday could be pivotal. The meeting already came to an end. We're going to get in that as well. The WNBA Players Association will meet Monday morning in New York for their first in-person bargaining session involving players since October. Sources close to the process told ESPN. A meeting many believe could be pivotal in whether a new collective bargaining agreement is reached or players decide to strike. The union, sources said, has grown increasingly frustrated that the league hasn't formally responded to its most recent proposal submitted around Christmas.
The meeting was scheduled for Monday morning, January 13th, at the WNBA offices in New York. First in-person bargaining session involving players since October. ESPN called it pivotal. Everyone involved knew this could determine whether they reach a deal or the players walk out. The league showed up ready. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, members of the Labor Relations Committee, New York Liberty owners Clara Wu Tsai and Joe Tsai. They came to negotiate face-to-face, which is exactly what the players had been demanding for weeks. Here's who showed up from the players' side: Nneka Ogwumike, Arike Ogunbowale, Brianna Turner, Alicia Clark, and Stephanie Dolson. Notice who's missing from that list.
Kelsey Plum, she was a no-call, no-show. She had travel issues. The WNBA and Players Association met in New York City for about 3 hours today. The player delegation included Nneka Ogwumike, Alicia Clark, Brianna Turner, and Stephanie Dolson. Nafisa Collier and Kelsey Plum had travel issues and didn't make it to New York. Ogwumike and company declined.
Nafisa Collier and Kelsey Plum had travel issues, couldn't make it to New York, had to participate via video call. Brianna Stewart also joined remotely. Now, let's think about this timeline. 2 days before this critical meeting, Collier and Plum were posting videos at the airport, pushing each other around in wheelchairs, clearly traveling somewhere. They're professional athletes who fly constantly. They have agents, managers, assistants, whose entire job is coordinating travel. And somehow, for the most important negotiating session in WNBA history, they both have flight problems on the same day.
You got these two horsing around in the airport. You got these two pushing each other along in the airport. You know what I think happened? You want to know? You want to know why I don't think that they made it? If I had to take a guess.
The conspiracy theory is entertaining. Did the owners make a call to United Airlines? Hey, you know those two players who want 30% revenue share? Maybe their flight gets delayed? It's absurd, obviously, but the optics are terrible. Because whether it was genuinely bad luck or something else, the result is the same. The players' negotiating team showed up fractured and incomplete. Think about what message that sends to ownership. You're asking for 30% of gross revenue. You're threatening to strike and cancel the season. And you can't coordinate 7 people to be in the same room on the same day. The owners walked into that meeting with all the leverage in the world.
And the owners looked across the table and said, your career revenue generation for this league is about $189. So why the fuck are you here asking for a raise on the backs of others? Damn. So the delegation was made up of, in the grand scheme of things, nobody that has a following or even a big name. Just people you would pass on the street and not even recognize.
The delegation that actually showed up in person tells you everything about which faction is driving this bus right now. Ogwumike, Ogunbowale, Turner, Clark, Dolson, that's the no-compromise group. The players who believe this is their one chance to fundamentally reshape the economic structure of the league, and they're not wrong about the opportunity. The WNBA just signed new media deals worth $200 million annually, starting in 2020. That's up from 50. League revenue is projected to hit $300 million next year. Attendance is up, ratings are up. The expansion draft for Toronto and Portland is delayed specifically because of these negotiations. The league has never had more momentum or more money. But here's the problem with maximalist negotiating positions. They require unity. The second the other side senses division, they stop moving.
WNBA Players Union meet to try to push forward CBA talks. This is the update that we get. The WNBA and the Players Union met for a few hours Monday for the first time in several weeks to try to move the stalled collective bargaining negotiations forward. Union President Nneka Ogwumike walked out of the NBA offices around 1:30 p.m., 3 hours after she got there, and said, "No, we can't talk," when asked for comment. Ogwumike was joined by executive committee members Brianna.
The meeting lasted 3 hours. Ogwumike walked out at 1:30 p.m. and said exactly 2 words to the media: no comment. Turner and Clark were with her. No statements, no nudes, no indication of progress. What we know from ESPN reporting is this. The union has been waiting since Christmas for the league to respond to their most recent proposal, which included that 30% gross revenue share demand. The league's position, laid out in their January offer, is the $1 million max salary structure, with revenue sharing that could push it higher. They've moved significantly from their initial position. The players want them to move more. And now we're in a status quo period. The original CBA expired January 9th. They agreed to a moratorium that halted free agency. Teams can't make qualifying offers. They can't use franchise tags. The expansion draft is postponed. The regular season is scheduled to start May 8th. But that date means nothing if there's no deal.
Clara Wu and Joe Tsai. Talks to reach a new CBA haven't had much traction over the past few weeks, as the union says it's waiting for a response to a proposal it sent around Christmas that included a 30% gross revenue share for the players. The league's most recent offer last month would guarantee a max salary base of $1 million in 2026 that could reach $1.3 million through rev share. That's up from the current $249,000 and could grow to nearly $2 million over the life of the agreement. The two sides have been in a status quo period after the latest extension of the current CBA ran out on January 9th.
Here's what makes this situation particularly precarious. The last CBA was announced in mid-January 2020, a full month after the sides had agreed to terms. Even when they reach a handshake deal, it takes weeks to formalize everything and restart free agency. We're already past that timeline. If they don't agree to terms in the next 2 weeks, the entire offseason gets compressed into chaos. Free agency was supposed to begin last month. Rosters were supposed to be set by now. Training camps are supposed to open in April. Every day without a deal creates more logistical nightmares. And the players know this. The owners know the players know this, which means the leverage is shifting by the hour.
So they met today. Not really much to report on other than they met today. Not much to report on other than Nafisa Collier and Kelsey Plum. They couldn't show up. Travel issues. You know how that goes. Travel issues. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me.
Let's talk about what 30% gross revenue share actually means in practice, because this is where the negotiation gets complicated. The players are asking for a percentage of total league revenue before expenses. That's different from net revenue, which is what's left after costs. Gross revenue share is how the NBA does it. NBA players get 50% of basketball-related income, which is essentially gross revenue from the sport itself. The WNBA's revenue structure is fundamentally different. The league has been subsidized by the NBA for most of its existence. Even with the new media deals, most teams aren't profitable yet. The expansion fees for Toronto and Portland, $50 million each, are going directly to the existing owners as compensation for diluting their share of league revenue. That's $100 million that won't go to player salaries. So when the players ask for 30% of gross revenue, they're asking for a percentage of a number that doesn't currently translate to profit. The owners are saying, we'll give you massive salary increases. We'll tie future earnings to revenue growth through the revenue share structure, but we're not committing to a percentage that could bankrupt teams that are still building their business model. And this is where the internal division becomes critical, because both sides of the executive committee have legitimate arguments. The Ogwumike faction is right that this is a unique moment. The WNBA will never have more leverage than right now. Caitlin Clark just drove the highest ratings in league history. The 2024 season averaged 1.2 million viewers across all platforms, up 170% from 2023. Corporate sponsors are flooding in. If the players don't secure structural revenue sharing now, when will they ever get another chance? But the Stewart faction is also right that a 400% salary increase is historically unprecedented. The league is offering guaranteed money that makes WNBA contracts competitive with overseas opportunities for the first time ever. Players won't have to spend their winters in Russia or Turkey to make a living wage. That's life-changing for the majority of the league, even if it doesn't satisfy the stars who want NBA-level economics. The question is whether the perfect is the enemy of the good, and whether 7 players can agree on which one they're looking at. Here's what happens next. The two sides are technically in communication, but there's no scheduled follow-up meeting announced. The players are waiting for the league to respond to their Christmas proposal. The league is waiting for the players to show flexibility on the 30%. Both sides are watching the calendar and doing the math on how long they can hold out. If the players call a strike, they lose paychecks immediately. Most WNBA players aren't wealthy. They can't afford to sit out a season on principle. The stars like Stewart and Collier will be fine. They have Nike deals and Puma deals and unrivaled salaries to fall back on. But what about the role players making $75,000? What about the rookies who just got drafted and need that first contract? A strike doesn't hurt everyone equally. The owners know this. They have other businesses. They have NBA franchises subsidizing their WNBA investments. Time is on their side. Which brings us back to that fractured executive committee. If Collier and Plum are genuinely having second thoughts about the hardline approach, if Stewart is privately telling people she thinks they should take the deal, if Clark and Dolson are worried about the consequences of a strike, then Ogwumike and Turner are negotiating without the votes to back up their threats. And the owners can see it. They saw it when half the committee couldn't show up in person. They saw it in the body language. They saw it in the lack of unified messaging afterward. The union's strongest weapon is the credible threat of a strike. But that threat only works if everyone believes you'll actually do it. If the owners think the executive committee will fracture before they vote to walk out, then the entire negotiating position collapses. So what does this mean for the 2025 season? Honestly, it probably still happens. Neither side wants to be responsible for canceling the WNBA's most anticipated season ever. The Caitlin Clark effect is real. The ratings prove it. The sponsors prove it. The sold-out arenas prove it. Walking away from that momentum would be catastrophic for everyone involved. My prediction? The players back down from the 30% gross revenue demand. They accept something closer to the league's current offer, maybe with some additional sweeteners around benefits, travel conditions, or marketing rights. The deal gets announced sometime in late January or early February. Free agency happens in a compressed window. Training camps open on time. The season starts May 8th. But the underlying tension doesn't go away. Because this negotiation exposed something fundamental. The players don't agree on what they're worth or what they should be fighting for. That division doesn't heal just because they sign a CBA. It festers, and it'll show up again in 2032 when this agreement expires. The WNBA is at a crossroads. The business is growing faster than anyone predicted. The revenue is real. The opportunity is genuine. But the players are negotiating against owners who've been doing this for decades, who own NBA franchises, who understand leverage and timing and how to exploit division. And right now, the owners are winning. Not because their offer is fair or generous, but because the players can't agree on what winning looks like. Someone revolution, someone evolution. And when your negotiating team is split down the middle, you don't get either one. You get whatever the other side is willing to give you. So here's the question for the comment section. Are the players making a catastrophic mistake by not holding out for structural revenue sharing? Or are they smart to take the massive salary increases and live to fight another day? Because both things can't be true. Pick a side and defend it. Because this decision is going to define the WNBA's economics for the next 8 years. Let me know what you think below, and if you found this breakdown valuable, hit that subscribe button. Because we're going to be covering every development in these negotiations until there's a deal on the table.